Thank you for tuning back in to Men Talk, where we got the doctor of soul fitness, Fredrick Haynes, III. I'll go ahead and let Dean pick up where we ended right before we went to break.
Great, thanks, Matt. Yeah, no, I was going to talk about, what would you suggest for someone that wants to get involved in the ministry or has a calling to get involved with the community and follow their inspiration, what they want to do?
I love that question. For me, it's important that you have a sense of call, and when you have a sense of call, I mean, God has a way of ordering your steps and your stops so that you almost bump into your purpose. Because for me, ministry and mission are synonymous. You can't be serious about ministry if you're not on a mission. Right. And you're not going to be on a mission if you don't feel that you've been designed, by a higher being, by God Almighty, to fulfill something. In essence, to be an answer to what's wrong in society.
Do you think people kind of block that out, or they're just kind of blind to that call, or how does someone open themselves up to receiving that call?
And I love that, because for me, I did everything in my power to not do what I do. I'm the third generation preacher in my family. My grandfather, father, I'm named after both of them. I was expected to go into ministry. And I had this rebellious streak inside of me that whenever someone tells me, you are going to do this, there's a part of me that says, that's the last thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to prove you wrong. And so I spent a lot of time trying to prove you wrong. No, I'm not going to do ministry. I'm going to be a comedian. I'm going to do something else, but I'm not going to be a preacher. That's the last thing I'm going to do. And so I think, if we're honest, I mean, we have our own natural bent, and sometimes it's like God, who has a crazy sense of humor. God says, okay, play for a while, I'll get you when I'm ready. And when I'm ready, I'll make sure you're ready. And so what happens is that there's a sense that I think it's in us, but we don't want to miss out on something. Like for me, I ain't going to be no preacher. I don't want to miss out on fun in life. I want to have myself a good time. And it's like I equated not having a good time with service, with public service, with ministry, which was warped, which was real wrong, because I got to tell you, I didn't know life could be so wonderful until I surrendered to doing what I was born to do.
It's hard for most people, I think, because I think that they're searching for that pot of gold in their decisions. It's always money driven, even though they know that it's probably not going to be the happiest of choice. Like for instance, when kids pick majors in college, they'll probably pick finance or economics or something that they think is going to lead them into a good job, even though they hate finance and economics and would rather study theater. So what do you suggest for someone? I mean, it's hard to separate yourself from that drive for money, because I think it makes decisions for us.
There's no question. And I guess for me, by way of a testimony, I will never forget when I was in college, and I had gone through my first semester, because again, I was money driven. As far as I was concerned, I was going to be involved in I was a political science major. I was going to do something as it relates to the legal profession, but I was going to make some cheddar, and I was going to do real well at it. And I aced all my classes, but there was an inner emptiness I felt. And after my first year in school, it was like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? And I actually sat down and raised that question in, okay, God, why am I here? What am I going to do with my life? In that process, I'm reading about Dr. King, falling in love with his life, and he said in one of his books, it was being interviewed rather, and he said, my final surrender to my calling had everything to do with assessing my experiences, my exposure, and even my education. And in all of that, it added up to a burden for public service. And I felt that the gifts God had equipped me with would best be utilized in ministry. And so as a consequence, I'm like, wow, I need to take a good look at my experiences, what I've been through in life, what lessons I've learned from those experiences, what I've been exposed to, my own education, my own bent, what bothers me in life. And all of that said, everything you're trying not to do is what you were called to do.
Right. Does it trouble you to, like some of you today, like they only know the basics of Martin Luther King? I mean, does that bother you, like the stuff that they're teaching them in school? I mean,
oh, man.
How does that make you feel? I mean,
well, it makes me work harder. Because one of the things that has just hit me is, and that is that I'm called to be an answer. Whenever I see something wrong, God says, okay, well, that's why you see it. And so as a consequence, I have a responsibility to be a part of the education or re-education as it relates to the life and legacy of Dr. King. Because like you said, they limit Dr. King basically to, I have a dream today, and that's it. And he lived 5 years after that. And miss out on his war on poverty, his stance against, an unconstitutional, unjust war in Vietnam. I mean, they forget about that and basically take the palatable, easy Dr. King, I call it, that one can easily digest, as opposed to the more complex Dr. King, who really wrestled with a lot of things that if we would seriously address today, I mean, our world would be in much better shape.
Right. And that's a good point, because me as a youth, I learned to read that myself, and I just learned that, I picked up the information that he was providing, and I went and actually bought the book. I want to say I was like 11.
Wow.
And I still got it today.
Wow.
I still got it today, and I love it, and I'll read it again, and again.
Yeah.
But do you think more kids today are losing that, are moving away from that because of maybe, let's say, the society we're living in, and what's the word?
What
you got,
and how to get above that.
Yeah,
It's so hard for people to do that.
Yeah.
I want your advice on how, what would you tell someone who really needs to get out of this, their kind of universe that they really need to break out of, and how do they go about doing that?
To look beyond the hip hop,
Exactly.
It's a better ways than just okay, I want to be an athlete, I want to be a rapper or a singer,
Right.
How do it's like
Well, for me, again, it all begins with coming to grips with the reality. You know what? I was born for a reason. I was born for a purpose. I was placed on this planet. I'm not here by accident. I'm here for an appointment. I'm on assignment. I got to handle my business. Now, the question is, what is that business? And so in terms of finding out what that business is, I promise you, you really don't know real happiness, joy, peace of mind, contentment until you partner with your purpose, until you come to grips with, okay, this is what I'm about, this is what I'm called to do, I'm going to do it until I do it to death. And when you come to grips with that, I mean, that's what real happiness is. Now, you're doing all this other stuff, you may be making money, having fun, but there's going to be an inner emptiness. It's like, I know something is missing here. I know my life is meant for something greater than this. I got the money, I got the bling, I got the parties, but something is missing. And until you come to grips with, okay, God actually placed me here for a reason, find out that reason, and live in that reason, you won't know real peace, let alone contentment and happiness.
So 1 second, and that just goes, they need to be grounded.
Hey,
Need to be grounded. Hey, we've got Dr. Freddie Haynes here. We will be right back. Go get it.